I was recovering from a serious injury when I overheard my partner call me a disappointment while talking to her friends behind closed doors the next day. She called me begging me to stay and promising to make things right. So here's the thing. I 28M have been with my partner Lana 30F for a few years now. We've had our ups and downs like most couples, but nothing out of the ordinary. At least that's what I thought. We've always been close, had good communication, and in general I thought we had a healthy relationship, but over the last few months things have gotten weird. Back in December, I had a bad accident at work, slipped on some wet floor tiles and twisted my ankle so badly that I had to have surgery after. Weeks of bed rest and physical therapy was slowly getting back to normal. The problem was that during my recovery, I wasn't able to do much. I could barely walk, let alone help around the house or run errands. Lana's work schedule was pretty hectic too, and while she tried to help when she could, I could tell she was getting frustrated with how little I was able to contribute. I know it wasn't easy. For her, I'm not blind to how much she was shouldering. She had to manage both her career and taking care of me while I was on crutches, but I also didn't expect what happened next. One night after I had spent most of the day resting and catching up on shows, I noticed Lana had invited a couple of her friends over for a girls' night. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary. She had been planning it for a while. I was in the living room trying to distract myself with a movie when I heard the distinct sound of hushed voices from behind the bedroom door. At first, I didn't think much of it. They were just chatting, but then I heard Lana's voice clearly saying something I didn't expect. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. I mean, I'm not sure how much longer can handle being with someone who's just a disappointment. It's like he expects me to pick up the slack for everything. I froze. My heart dropped at that point. I wasn't even sure if she knew I was listening, but then I heard one of her friends respond, "What do you mean, is he still not getting better?" "No," Lana said, with a sharpness in her voice. "He's still not doing anything. I'm running the whole show here. I work full-time. I take care of him. He's just been lying around, complaining about his recovery, acting like it's not his fault he's like this. And when I did anything to try and take care of myself, I get this guilt trip. Just feel like I'm the only one trying." I wanted to speak up, but I couldn't move. I sat there in disbelief, hearing Lana, my partner, talk about me like this to her friends. I've been struggling with my recovery, yes, but I was also trying to be patient with myself, even though it was hard. The worst part was hearing her call me a disappointment. I'd never once asked her to do everything for me. We had a pretty equal partnership before my accident. The conversation continued for a bit longer, and I could barely make out the words through the door, but it was enough for me to realize that Lana's patience had worn thin, and maybe she'd never really been on my side. To begin with, the next day I was still shaken. I could barely bring myself to confront her about what I'd heard, but I knew I had to. I waited until she came home from work, hoping she'd be in a better mood after a long day, but instead, she walked in looking stressed, almost offensive. She didn't even look at me at first. "Hey," I said, my voice shaky. "Can we talk for a second?" Lana glanced over at me, then sighed. "Not now, I'm exhausted." "No, please, I heard what you said last night." She froze, her mind turning pale. "What do you mean?" Her voice was defensive, but I could see her avoiding my gaze. "Heard you talking to your friends about me, about how I'm a disappointment and how I'm not doing enough while I recover. You said I'm just lying around, complaining, and that you're the only one trying." Lana went silent for a long moment, like she was trying to figure out how to get out of it. Then she sighed, sitting down beside me on the couch. "Look, I didn't mean it like that. I was frustrated. It's hard, and I've been trying so hard to juggle everything. I know it's been hard for you," I said quietly, "but you can't talk about me like that behind my back. You could have come to me. We could have worked through it." She looked guilty for a second, but then the defensiveness kicked in again. "I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't realize you'd overhear it, but I'm just tired and I need help." I didn't know what to say. Couldn't stop the hurt from bubbling up. Inside me, was this really how she felt? Was I really a disappointment to her? She tried to apologize again, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive her, just like that the damage had already been done. And now it felt like I didn't even know who I was talking to anymore, and that's when she dropped the bomb look. "I know, I've been harsh, but I'm begging you. Please don't leave me. We can fix this. Promise I'll make things right." I didn't know how to respond. Everything felt like a blur. How could she expect me to just forgive her after what I overheard? After hearing that she thought I was a disappointment that night, I lay in bed, wide awake, unsure about what to do next. Should I trust her again? Could I ever see her the same way after this? I didn't know, but what I did know was that everything had changed, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to forgive. The next morning, as I was still processing everything, I got another call from Lana. Her voice was shaky, and she was pleading with me, begging me to stay. She promised everything would be different. She'd work harder to be supportive. Amidst I could hear her sincerity, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been betrayed. I hung up not knowing how to proceed. The next couple of days were a blur of confusion. Lana's calls didn't stop. She texted me nonstop to leaving. Messages like, "I'm so sorry and please, I can't lose you." The problem was every time I saw her name flash on my phone, I could still hear her words echoing in it. My head disappointment, it was like a weight pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe whenever I thought about it. I tried to talk to a couple of my close friends about what had happened. They were supportive, but gave me some tough love. One of them, Alex, was particularly blunt. Man, she called you a disappointment. That's not something you just get over. You gotta ask yourself if you're really okay with how she sees you. That was exactly the thing I was struggling with. Could I live with the fact that she'd said that about me? Could I keep pretending everything was okay after overhearing her talking about me like I was some burden she didn't want? But then every time I saw Lana, the guilt started to creep in. She changed her tone, tried harder to help me out around the house, and made these small gestures that were supposed to show me how much she cared. She'd even taken the day off work to go with me to my next physical therapy session. It was sweet, and I could see she was trying, but it felt like the damage was already done. It was like I was seeing a different side of her, one that didn't feel real. The thing about Lana was that she could be really convincing when she was at her best. She made me feel like I was the only person who mattered to her, but after hearing how she talked to her friends, I wasn't sure if that version of her had ever really existed. Was I just a convenience to her when things were easy? Was I just a disappointment now that life had gotten harder? Lana kept showing up at my place unannounced, asking if we could talk. Every time she came over, she had this look in her eyes, desperation, like she knew she'd messed up, but was hoping she could somehow fix it by being there. For me, one day she came over with lunch, which I thought was a thoughtful, but the moment I saw her set the bag down on the table, I could feel the tension building. Up inside of me, I wasn't even hungry. I just wanted to get away from everything, but I didn't know where to go. She sat down beside me, nervously fidgeting with her hands. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't even look at her right away. I stared at the food in front of me. "What do you want to talk about?" Her face fell for a second, but she quickly recovered. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened, and I just want you to know that I'm sorry for everything. I didn't mean to hurt you. I know I've been distant and frustrated. I wasn't handling things well, but I want to make it right. Please, can we try again?" I could feel my stomach twist. I wanted to believe her, I really did, but that disappointment still lingered in the back of my mind. I needed to understand if she truly felt bad about what she'd said, or if this was just another way to get me to forgive her so everything could go back to normal. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Lana, you said I was a disappointment. You didn't just say it. Once you said it multiple times in front of your friends, like I was some burden. You were stuck with how am I supposed to just let that go?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't mean it like that. I don't know what came over me. I was so frustrated and I was venting to my friends. I'm ashamed of what I said. I didn't think you'd ever hear it then. Why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you tell me you were struggling?" My voice cracked without me meaning for it to. I felt exposed, vulnerable, but I needed to know if she could really see me, if she could truly understand how hurt I was. "Didn't want to burden you more. You were already going through so much with your injury. I didn't know how to cope with everything, and I let it out the wrong way, but please know that I'm sorry. I swear I'll do better. Just give me a chance." Her words felt so rehearsed, like she was following a script. I wasn't sure I could trust anymore. There was sincerity there, but there was also something else, a fear in her voice. She didn't want to lose me. I could tell that much, but was that enough? I stood up, pacing a little in the small apartment, trying to make sense of everything. It wasn't just the words she'd said, it was the way she'd made me feel like I was something broken that needed fixing. And if I couldn't live up to her expectations, then I was a disappointment. I was hurt, I was angry, but I didn't want to lash out. I didn't want to make a rash decision either. "Lana, I need some time to think," I finally said, stopping in front of her. She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. "Please don't make any decisions right now. Just give me some time, and I promise I'll prove to you that I can be the person you need me to be." I shook my head slowly. "I'm not making any decisions. I just need time to figure out if this is something we can fix or if it's just too broken." She nodded, tears slipping down her face now. I didn't want to see her cry, but I couldn't ignore the fact that I was struggling too. My heart ached seeing her like this, but I didn't know if it was enough. I left her sitting there, the sound of her sniffles in the background as I grabbed my coat and walked out. I needed to be away from her. For a while, I needed space to think Thing was, no matter how much she bed no, matter how much she promised she could change, I couldn't ignore the feeling that everything had shifted, that something had been broken beyond repair. I spent the next few days avoiding Lana, trying to clear my head every time I thought about her, about the things she'd said. I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't really sorry, not in the way I needed her to be sure. She was upset that I'd overheard her ranting to her friends, but it felt like her remorse was more about me finding out than truly understanding how much she'd hurt me. She was acting like she was the one who'd been wronged, as if I was the one being unreasonable for not forgiving her right away. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that Lana had always been good at putting on a front. She knew how to play the part when she needed to. Always the supportive, loving girlfriend who was there for me when things were easy, but when life got tough, when the pressure mounted, it seemed like she couldn't handle it, and instead of stepping up, she took the easy route, blaming me, calling me a disappointment. It wasn't the first time she'd done something like this. I remembered back to the beginning of our relationship when I'd first hurt my back while working. I'd had to take some time off from my job, and Lana had been incredibly supportive. At first, until her own life started getting more stressful, I thought it was just a temporary thing, but now looking back, it was clear this was a pattern. The moment things became difficult for her, she started resenting me for not being perfect, and when she couldn't handle the pressure, I became her scapegoat. I couldn't help but think that maybe I had been blind to it all along. One evening, I decided to go over to her apartment. I wasn't sure why. I guess I was hoping that maybe I could find some clarity by hearing her out one last time. But when I walked in, I was hit with a cold, uncomfortable atmosphere. Lana was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, but there was a tension in the air. She didn't even look up when I entered, and for a moment I almost turned around and left, but I pushed forward. Stepping into the living room, she finally glanced up, looking almost irritated. "You're here, what do you want?" Could feel the anger bubbling up in me, but I kept it in check. "I want to talk. Really talk, not just you saying what you think I want to hear." Lana rolled her eyes, the defensiveness in her posture, making me want to walk out of the room. Immediately, what is there to talk about? Really, I've already apologized. I've already told you how sorry I am, and you just keep dragging this out. You're making this way harder than it needs to. I felt my stomach churn, making it harder. "Lana, you're the one who called me a disappointment. You're the one who said you were done dealing with me. Don't act like this is just some small mistake." She scoffed, clearly trying to play it off. It wasn't like that. You're just overreacting. I was venting. You're acting like I murdered someone. I stood there, frozen. Did she really just say that? I felt like I was talking to a completely different person. I'm overreacting. I was the one who'd been hurt, who'd been living with a broken leg and constant pain, struggling to keep up with everything while she sat there acting like the world was crumbling because she had to help me. "I'm not overreacting, Lana," I said, my voice getting quieter, but my anger was growing. "I'm seeing things for what they really are now. You've been using me as your emotional punching bag. Whenever you get stressed, and now you're acting like I should just forgive you and move on like nothing happened." She crossed her arms, rolling her eyes again. "Oh, so now I'm the villain in this? Is that it? I've been helping you for months while you've done nothing but complain. Have my own life, but it's fine. Keep making me out to be the bad guy." That's when I saw it. The mask finally came off. The sweet, loving girlfriend I thought I knew wasn't real all this time. I had been coddling her, making excuses for her, thinking she was doing her best. But the truth was that she was selfish. She only cared about how she felt and wanted everyone to bow down to her needs. When things got hard, I became an afterthought. She had no patience, no compassion, and certainly no understanding of what it meant to be in a partnership. "Oh," I said, shaking my head. "You're not the victim here, Lana. You don't get to call me a disappointment and then turn this around on me like I'm the one who's been causing all the problems." For a moment, she was silent. I could see her face shifting between frustration and something else, fear. I wasn't sure, but whatever it was quickly replaced by a cold, hard look that sent a chill through me. "What, fine, if that's how you feel, maybe you should just leave." Her tone was bitter, like she couldn't be bothered with this anymore. "I've been doing everything for you, and you can't even be grateful. I don't need someone like you holding me back. Maybe I should just end it. Then you can go on with your miserable little life." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stood there, stunned. Lana was willing to throw everything away. Everything, because she couldn't handle the smallest bit of criticism. It wasn't about me being a disappointment to her. It was about her being incapable of facing her own mistakes. It was easier for her to blame me, to make me feel small, than to take responsibility for how she had treated me. "I think we're done here," I said, quietly turning to walk out. Lana didn't try to stop me. She didn't say a word as I headed toward the door. I didn't look back. There was nothing left to say, but as I stepped out into the hallway, something inside me clicked. I was done being her emotional punching, back done being the person she could manipulate and blame whenever it was convenient for her. I wasn't going to let her do this to me anymore. Update: it's been a couple of weeks since that last confrontation. Lana hasn't reached out. I haven't called, texted, or even acknowledged her existence since I walked out that day. At first I thought it would be hard. I thought I'd miss her. But the truth is, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders the moment I left. I had been carrying around so much emotional baggage, convincing myself I had to stay and fix things that I couldn't see how toxic our relationship had become, but that wasn't the end of it. It wasn't enough for me to just walk away quietly, to let her off the hook without any consequences for what she'd done. No, I needed to make sure she understood what she'd lost. I wanted her to know exactly what she had thrown away when she decided to treat me like I was worthless. The first step was setting things straight with her. I hadn't planned on seeing her again, but then I heard through a mutual friend that Lana had been talking badly about me. According to her, I was the one who had pushed her to the edge, that I was the one who hadn't appreciated all she had done for me. She painted herself as the victim, the one who had been sacrificing everything for me, and how I just turned on her after all her hard work. That was when I knew I had to act. I called her one last time. I wasn't expecting her to pick up, but she did. Hello. Her voice was cold, but there was a hint of tension in it, like she knew this was coming. I cleared my throat. Lana, we need to talk about what I thought you were done with me, she said, trying to sound indifferent, but I could hear the slight edge of defensiveness in her tone. I'm done with you, but I'm not done with what you've been saying behind my back. You've been telling people that I'm the one who treated you badly, that you were the victim in this. You've made yourself out to be some martyr. There was silence on the other end for a moment. Could practically hear her scrambling for something to say. I didn't mean it. Like that, I just know. Lana, I heard it. Straight from our friend, you made it sound like I was the one who failed you, the one who pushed you to do everything for me when all I wanted was someone who actually cared. Do you know how many times I heard that I was a burden from you, that I was a disappointment you have? Some nerve. Her tone shifted now, defensive and almost angry. I never said you were a burden. You're twisting things around just like always. I'm not twisting anything. And here's the thing, Lana, there are consequences to treating people like garbage you don't get to walk away from. This expecting everything to go back to normal, especially when you've tried to destroy my reputation, but I'm going to make sure you understand the damage you've done. I'm not letting you get away with it. What do you mean? She asked, her voice shaking. Now you'll see I've already started. I hung up the phone before she could respond. My heart was pounding, but I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to stoop to her level and engage in petty arguments. No, my revenge would be smarter, more calculated. It was time to take action over. The next few days, I started talking to our mutual friends, ones who had been close to both of us. I made sure to tell them exactly what had happened. I explained how she had gone behind my back and twisted the narrative, making herself look like the martyr. I told them about the hurtful things she said, about the way she treated me when I needed her most. I didn't sugarcoat anything. What really stung for her, though, was when I went to her workplace. I didn't make it seen, but I spoke to a couple of her colleagues. I told them about the way she'd been acting, how she'd manipulated people into thinking she was the one who'd been suffering, even though she was the one causing all the drama. I didn't spread any outrageous rumors, just the truth. Something Lana couldn't control. It wasn't long before whispers started spreading. Word got back to Lana, and I could tell she was panicking. The people who had once treated her like she was perfect started questioning her behavior. The facade she had worked so hard to maintain was crumbling, and she didn't know how to stop it. Then I took it one step further. I knew she had been applying for a new job in a different city, something that had always been her escape plan if things didn't work out with me. I contacted the hiring manager and let them know about her tendencies to manipulate situations. I didn't lie, just told them I didn't think she was a good fit based on what I had observed. Over the course of our relationship, it wasn't a huge thing, but it was just enough to make sure her chances were slim. The final blow came when I found out she was trying to contact me again, sending emails, texts, and even reaching out to my friends. She begged for a second chance, promising she would change, saying all the right things. I had been tempted. Honestly, there was a part of me that missed the person I thought she was. But I realized something. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about making sure she would never hurt me again, never manipulate anyone again. I didn't respond to her. Instead, I took all the evidence, had text messages, screenshots, and stories from friends and posted them anonymously online. I made sure the truth got out. I didn't want to destroy her life, but I wanted her to feel the consequences of her actions. And if she wanted to lie about me to make herself feel better, then she would have to deal with the fallout after that. Lana's reputation took a massive hit. Her friends started distancing themselves. Her coworkers grew cold, and the job offer she had been so eager for was rescinded It didn't take long before she started to see the full extent of what had happened, but by then it was too late. The damage was done. I never heard from her again, not directly anyway. She tried to reach out through mutual friends, but I had no interest in hearing her excuses. Anymore, I walked away from that relationship knowing I had done what was necessary. I didn't take pleasure in the pain I caused her, at least not at first, but I felt a sense of peace knowing that I had taken back control over my own life, and maybe, just maybe, she learned the hard way that actions have consequences. The lesson wasn't just for her, though. It was for me, too. I would never let anyone treat me like that again. Not Lana, not anyone, and that in the end felt like the sweetest kind of revenge.